You ready? Can we both be on at the same time?
All right. Hey, it's 9 o'clock, and it's time for our Lake Town Hall. Thank you for everybody for joining us. Good morning. We have a beautiful, another beautiful sunny Saturday day here at Sandy Pines. And reminder, we've got Breakfast of Champions in the back. We've got some cookies and coffee, thanks to Lumpinks and Janelle for taking care of that for us. We will probably do, I don't know what, Val, 20 minutes-ish on kind of an update of the projects and what we've been doing on the lake, which is our number one asset, and then we'll open it up for any questions, comments, ideas that you guys are seeing that you want to bring forward. We have cross-functional group here. We have a lot of the lake committee. So if you're on the lake committee, could you raise your hand, please? Okay. And then the board, we have Scott and Craig on the board, and I can't see who's next to Craig. I think that's Dave. Paul and Dave. Okay. So Larry, I thought you raised your hand for the. Did you raise your hand for the lake committee? Oh, he's by Larry's multitasking. It's so we'll get started.
More board members, I swear.
Sound like a plan?
Yeah.
All right.
Good.
So again, thanks for coming. We'll give a quick update. If you take a step back, when we implemented the lake committee, we had a lot to do, right? We had a survey that was done, a study that was done in 2019 by an independent company, and they kind of highlighted the health of our lake, some erosion things, and just a list of stuff that needed to be done to protect our lake and get it back to a thriving lake. We had members communicating, hey, we're not seeing a lot of fishing activity going on. There's a lot of weeds. The dam was an issue. So we'll give you a quick update on some of the projects. We kind of broke those down into short-term, mid-term, and long-term projects. I'll quickly talk about those, the achievements that we've done as a committee so far, and then Val has some comments on wells and some things that we've seen pop up recently on the lake. So the dam project, DAM, is finally complete. So again, we had that assessed. It had a piping or leaking issue. That was done. A little bit of an emotional topic at the end of the season. Thank you for everybody's patience and guidance and understanding on that. We had an engineering company come in. They do nothing but they're experts on the dams. So membrane is covering the down underneath the riprap that goes out about I want to say 6 feet out into the lake. So you've got the stones, the riprap there, and then we've got basically that spillway is completely new. Back in the day, if we had a storm, I've actually seen pictures back in, I want to say 2010, when the golf course was flooded and we had a huge storm. We physically had maintenance people on top of that spillway shooting up a geyser to try and open up that spillway to release water. That's a safety issue. That's a hazardous situation. So the design of that spillway is, as water comes in, it drops to a level, and then as that fills up, it drops to another level, and then it goes out. So that spillway has all been completely done. There's no mechanical parts in there. One of the reasons we've had issues in the past is the mechanical gears that you had to crank that thing open to release water were rusted, and they were stuck. So we don't have any of that issues anymore. On the backside, we've had additional what they call like tow drains, where a dam is always going to have a little bit of moisture in it. So those tow drains will have been added that flows out through the other side of the dam and back towards the little creek area there. So, originally we thought maybe we could just do a repair, but it was a major initiative. The county and the engineering group said this needs to be done. So, what's come at us now is that's a popular fishing area. Roger, we've been blessed to have Roger, who sponsors, Roger Courser, who sponsors teaching kids how to fish. This will probably be the last year that we're going to do that in this area. We've talked with the county and the engineers. Hey, let's put like a walkway over that. We're losing our fishing area. The short answer has been no, we can't do that. Once you start putting a walkway over that riprap, the engineering company has to come out and do an inspection annually to make certain that everything's looking good. You cover that riprap up and that area up, they can't get to it. So we talked about maybe doing a short walkway with a couple of piers that go out there that kids can fish on. It's a high traffic area, so we're gonna. Lake Committee is looking at a couple of different areas of relocating some of that fishing. We'll get into that in a little bit. So we technically can't do a walkway. They're not going to allow us to do that. So what are we doing in the meantime? Because we did have people fish on that area. We're communicating. Please stay off the rocks. They will shift. We have seen people walking down on those rocks. We want to make certain for safety purposes that you're staying off the rocks. Roger is going to have a group of people in kayaks in the water for kids as they cast out. If their hooks get hooked up on that riprap, we'll have some help to unhook that. So we're going to have to work through it this year for a fishing area. Please stay above the rocks if you're fishing. You also have the little platform over by the launch area to do some fishing. Dam is complete. It's passed all the inspections. We do have, from a financial perspective, we do have a little bit of a surplus from the assessment, and the assessment did, in the writing, say if there's any surplus in that assessment, it will be allocated to lake capital funds. So some of the projects that we'll talk about later are being explored. Those funds will be used for some of these projects. So just a quick summary of that. Originally, back in 2022, the board said, hey, this is our #1 asset. They approved in our budget to allocate $250,000 for projects to the lake. We had the phase 3 lake well pump. That was a brand new project to try and get more water into the lake and churn that up, get fresh water in so the lake isn't stagnant. We spent $65,000 roughly on that.
Minions.
The minions, yep, we did the minions on that. I want to say that was what, 10,000, 11,000. Chapel Point project, we completely rescaped that, and that's a natural habitat. We'll talk about that in a little bit. That cost about $31,000. And then the phase 2 point, where we have riprap around that phase 2 that was getting significantly eroded, that was about $30,000. We have at the time, and these numbers are from April, $172,000 left over from the assessment to the dam. That's going to erode a little bit. We're still seeing about $40,000 to $50,000 of invoices coming in. So if you take 50 grand off of that, we have about an extra $120,000 extra from the assessment that will go to the dam. So how did we get that extra surplus? The original quotes the original quote that was accepted, quotes range from $1.4 million to about $2 million to do the dam. The engineering company that did the dam quoted us $988,000. There's a 10% contingency on that, which is $98,000. The actual culvert, the concrete culvert that is in there now for the spillway, that was $128,000. And the engineering firm to design it, draw it, engineer it, and supervise it, and then continue to inspect it, that was $164,000. So it was $1.37 million for that dam. The assessment, if you remember, for the members was $300 per membership. That was $649,000. We got an Eagle grant that Steve DeArmond and team worked tirelessly on to get a grant for $724,000. So the quote came in at 1.378, and the cost with the assessment came in at 1.372. So we've had some comments. We talked about this in the April board meeting that, hey, we've got, we overcharged the membership on that assessment. We had a quote of 1.378. The numbers came in with the assessment at 1.72. So we're going off of a quote. What's really driving the surplus on this is Ben's team has done a really good job in maintenance to take some of the work off of the engineering company. So we had some savings there, and the majority of savings is coming from that contingency. So we watched the costs, we eroded the, we reduced the costs, so we do have a surplus, but we didn't come out and overcharge the membership. We charged basically what we thought we were going to get out of the quote. So that's kind of the update on the dam. Other achievements that we've done, lights and new sign over the Phase 2 tunnel that was completed in July of 2024. Storage of docks, that we tested it one year, if you remember, push it all the way off the shoreline up towards your site, your deck. It can stay in the green space, but get it as far away from the shoreline as possible in case we have to do maintenance or there's any emergencies, things of that nature. We tested it one year, it worked well, and then last year we implemented that rule change in the handbook to store it. Now, one thing that we need to think about as we get smarter at this is, as members came back, we also gave them a list of contractors to contract and pull the docks out, put them back in. As we did the site cleanup and started walking the shoreline, there were docks hanging there that we didn't know whose docks they were. So we may want to start thinking about and talking about tagging those docks with a site number so we know whose they are in case there's an issue during the off season or somebody needs to move that. Or quite honestly, we've had a few that they just pulled it out of the water and they left it in the shoreline and in the high water mark. We needed to move that, but we didn't know who to communicate whose dock it was. So we'll probably start messaging that this off season. We're probably going to want to have some site numbers on those so we know whose they are. Erosion in the Phase 2 channel. We've identified some solutions. We're still working through that. Erosion at Sailboat Cove. We've identified some solutions. Both of those were at the end of the last season. We're still working through it. Sandy Pines Eagle permit process. We did that. Highlighted the process for that. Eagle wants us to fill those permits out rather than members. And we already talked about listed contractors. So those are some of the achievements that we've done so far. Short-term plans within 1 year. Val's going to talk about zebra mussels. We do have zebra mussels in our lake now, which is unfortunate, but every inland lake that we've talked to with, Eagle, Allegan County, they're everywhere. And depending on the lake, you're going to see them for 3 to 7 years. They have a lifespan process based on the food that's there, and there's other fish that will go in and eat those. Val will get into that. We've identified ADA beach walkway over at the North Shore building, a plan for that. So we've had some handicap individuals come in and say, we would like to go down and enjoy the beach as well. we really don't have an ADA accessible area for our beaches. So we've identified a couple of solutions there that the committee may bring forward. Kayak launch for rental area, that's a really neat project the team's working on. Floating ropes in both the swimming areas to outline the swimming area, not only for the swimmers so they don't go out into the boating lanes, but you can see some of the beaches are pretty close to boat stakes. So safety issue, we want to make certain that swimmers and boaters identify where those swimming areas are.
That's done.
That one is complete. We've had some questions about phase 1 where, hey, has that shifted, the swimming area and the beach shifted down to one side? Looking at some old maps and data and things of that nature, the beach has always been at the end of the concrete walkway for the pavilion all the way down towards the dairy dip, right? The swimming area, and I did talk to Steve DeArmond, head of safety. We did a walkthrough actually yesterday on this. The buoys over in that area are not placed real well. We'll put it that way. So we are going to shift that swimming area a little bit further towards the dairy dip, away from some of those boat stakes. So we do have the beach signs that says no dogs, no alcohol. We're going to anchor one of those swim ropes to one of those, that sign by the pavilion, and we're going to angle it out, and we're going to shift that area approximately 40 feet down towards the dairy dip to allow some safe boating to get into there. But yes, Val's correct, that one's done. We're waiting on the extra rope and buoys to shift that. That will be done before the 4th of July holiday.
Extra ropes and buoys.
Fishing area dock solutions. So we are looking at, if you go into admin, there's some pictures there of some nice young men that have walleye that I've never caught walleye that big. They caught them over by the Chapel Point in that natural habitat area. We've heard nothing but positive things since we put that natural habitat over there from a fishing perspective. The Lake Committee is looking at that area for kayak launch and a new new fishing area for members and kids to go. It's a no-wake area, less traffic from a boating perspective, and the fish are really prevalent in that area. And then wells, so we addressed one well issue already with replacement of a motor. We're looking at wells upkeep and repairs. So those are just the short-term ones. The midterm ones, prioritize and apply erosion solutions throughout the shoreline. Is that riprap? Eagle doesn't want seawalls any longer. They want a solution. Quite honestly, Eagle has told us we need to put riprap all the way around our lake. That's what they want. Does riprap really make sense in coves and things of that nature where there's not a lot of activity? Probably not. Riprap is pretty expensive. You got to put a membrane down first, then you got to put the rocks on it, and then so we're looking at other solutions. That's probably a 3 to 5 year plan. Boat lift proposals. So back in the day, from what I understand, boat lifts were recommended a while ago, but some of the pictures I saw were huge boat lifts like you see on Lake Macatawa with canopies, and they're 20 feet out of the air, things of that nature. The Lake Committee has done a really good job at looking at solutions for our lake, which would be not as obnoxious as that, or obnoxious at all. The reason we want to do that is the waves pounding boats knocking into each other. If we get them out of the water, it helps the boats be secure. And if we could put some boat lifts out there, maybe get some of the boats that are beached on the shoreline off the shoreline, because sand just washes out from underneath those boats and back into the lake. Carp fishing contest. We're still looking. We've got carp prevalent in our lake. We're looking for maybe any volunteers to, if we catch 200-300 carp, can we dump them on your site? I hear they're really good for vegetation. So, no? Did you guys grab any coffee this morning? Okay. Carp fishing contest. We have had some people say they're interested in bringing their own boats in, and bow fishing and things of that nature. We might want to turn this into a fun event for members to just go grab some carp, but we haven't finalized that yet. Boat motor horsepower restrictions. So this is something that has been talked about, I would say, for the last 2 or 3 years. This is going to be a touchy and emotional subject, but we are getting some studies that we're still trying to analyze. No decisions have been made, just putting it out there that this is being reviewed and looked at. So
Wow, you guys
park
are
inspectors are busy this morning. And then possible new wells where we can put them throughout the park. The long-term 5 to 10 years is going to be erosion, seawalls, and dredging. So those are longer term, and in order to hit those, because we hear about the depth of our lake has been filled in with the sand and things of that nature, so just go dredge. We've talked to Eagle about dredging, but before we can even get there, they want to understand what we're doing to make our lake safe and address the shoreline issues first. So if and when we dredge, it's not washing back in and filling up, and then we come back and say 5, 10 years later, we need to dredge again. So this one's a little bit further out, and we need to map our lake truly and find out how deep it is and where some of those issues are that need to be dredged. I think one thing that was a significant win in the fall and off-season was the fixing of the entrance to our lake over in Phase 3. That was a drain maintenance project that we worked hard with the county on. That probably had 15 plus years of sediment buildup. And when that thing was done, the contractor did a phenomenal job. Got that done in about 3 weeks, and I've never seen a current coming in from that area into our lake. And we now have a current, and the water is clearer in that area. So that's something that is a huge success for this park. And we've got on a regular basis to take care of that in the fall as needed. So
over to Val.
over to Val.
Okay, I'm going to start off on a positive note, let you know that as of this morning, all of our wells are working. Are they insufficient? Yes. They don't quite keep us where we need to be, and we're aware of that. That's why wells are continue to be on our list. They're always on our list, short, medium, and long term. Then I'm going to move on to the new thing here at the park. We do have zebra mussels. So I'm going to read a little dissertation. It's full of facts, and then you can ask, we'll have it in the questions. It'll help you to ask questions about the zebra mussels. Zebra mussels are found in all the Great Lakes and over 1,200 inland lakes. They are brought in on boats, boat trailers, fishing poles, lures, bait used in other lakes. Lack of taking precautions in the transient boats has caused the heaviest population to be found in the Monterey Lake boat launch area. Zebra mussels were not found in the 2019 lake study, so the introduction of zebra mussels is recent. Zebra mussels can lay up to 1 million eggs in a single spawning season. Optimal spawning water temp is 55 to 60 degrees. That's our spring temp here. Larvae development is in the summer, when the water temps are between 68 and 72 degrees. The larvae, or veligers, if you look this up, they're called, attach to everything, soft and hard surfaces. Zebra mussels have a maximum growth rate of about 1/2 inch per year. Their optimal water temp is 68 to 77 degrees. That's our summer temp. Although they can survive water temps up to 86 degrees. They live for 3 to 9 years. The adults have an average length of 1 inch. They will attach to any stable substrate, rocks, pipes, boats, docks, floats, and even each other. When pulling docks in the fall, you should wear protective gloves to wipe mussels from the poles. Do not wipe mussels into the lake. Rather, wipe them on a tarp or other material and dispose of them in the trash. Mussels on the bottom of the boats are best removed by pressure washing and protective gloves. Zebra mussels will filter 1 or more liters of water per day. They eat green algae. They can cause an imbalance in phytoplankton. Clear water can cause higher temps affecting fish spawning. Sunfish, bluegill, bass, and drumfish eat zebra mussels. Stocking the lake with these fish alone will not eradicate the mussels. Mussels attached to the bottom of boats can increase drag. Mussels in the cooling system can cause overheating. Bilges, live wells, and even motors can hold enough water to contain zebra mussels. A recent survey showed that residual water in a stern drive engine contained an average of 13 zebra mussel larvae. All Sandy Pine boaters should consider best practices in cleaning their boats and flushing the engine. Water heated up to 131 degrees and under pressure is the best for cleaning boats. The second best is cold water pressure spray, like a pressure washer or car wash, like the car wash, located next to the laundromat. Make sure to get in all the cracks and crannies where the larvae can lodge themselves. Another way to destroy mussels is the process of drying out the boat. This is called desiccation. The suggested amount of time to leave your boat out to dry is 5 to 7 days of at least 77 degrees before putting it in another body of water. The higher the humidity, the longer you should leave your boat out. Likewise, freezing temperatures cause high mortality. 15 hours or more at 29 degrees or less will result in 100% mortality. Much of our shoreline is shallow and exposed to freezing. Large-scale applications of biopesticides, for example, Zequinox, for whole lake treatments are very costly and have limited impact, just a little over 90% mortality. There's no silver bullet to eradicate zebra mussels. Hopefully, with education and best practices, we can keep the population in check. That's my piece on the zebra mussels. So I think we can turn it over to Q&A.
Yeah, just one last comment on zebra mussels. So this came up probably fall
24.
last year, that as people were pulling their floats out and their docks, they're like, what the heck is this? Hypothetically, some may have not used gloves and things of that nature and cut their hands. But we've identified, we called the Allegan County Health Department to get some guidance on how to handle some of these things. Ironically, they said, you know, the best results that they've seen from lakes that are dams, similar to ours, do a controlled drawdown of your lake, lower that shoreline, expose the zebra mussels that are hanging out in the shore area to the winter, and they freeze and die, as Val stated. And what did we do last year? We had a low lake level, so timing, right? Somebody looking out for us up above there, but we had the lake level probably at the lowest it's been in 10 years plus. So we're hoping that that did do some eradication of the zebra mussels, but that was the best thing that they had stated, was do a control drawdown. We did that, so we're hoping to see some benefits from that with the population being decimated. So yeah, with that, we're about halfway through, so we can open it up for questions, comments, anything that this group has seen that we're not seeing on the lake that we might want to add to our list. This is your time.
So I just got passed a note, and this may come up as you do your research on zebra mussels. Wash stations in our launch areas, we have asked for signs from Eagle. The wash station in our area would be a cold water pressure wash. Those cost anywhere from $60,000 to $72,000 to put in. And that seems, at this point, that since we have the car wash, that is already a pressure wash, cold wash. The absolute best way to protect yourself from maybe moving mussels to another lake is desiccation and flushing out your engine. What happens is the larvae get inside the motors. The larvae get inside the cracks. That's how we're transporting them. And we're not alone. I don't mean to just put it on members. I mean, Allegan County alone, when they come in to patrol our lake, are they pressure washing every time they use it? So this can come from other things. Somebody asked me if geese gave this to us. They did not. I mean, theoretically, a goose can transport a larvae, but we would be seeing these in the cove. The area that we're seeing them is by the launch. It's also deep water in the launch area. So even though we do bring our water down, there are zebra mussels that can make it through the winter in the deep areas. So if you're in the shallow area, this is a win for once. You know? But otherwise, yeah, I mean, if you have any questions about the zebra mussels or anything else that we brought up, this is the time to ask it, or any suggestions that we have not discussed. Go ahead.
I don't have a boat.
Can you go, Mayor, can you go to the mic, please? Well, again, the reason why we have people go to the mic is how we have, oh, no. As this is recorded, Ian and the team has done a really good job with the camera systems and the sound and audio, but in order to get that clear sound, it needs to go through the mics because the mics are piped in. So, thank you.
I have a question. You're talking about having to take all the docks out, and you mentioned boat lifts. And even though they would be less than Lake Macatawa, will all of those also have to come out of the water?
As it stands right now, the policy that we're looking at would require you to remove the boat lift. So we're looking for a boat lift that isn't massive, like we said. It'll be easy enough to take out, as easy as your dock is.
Okay, well, I just thought, you know, before everybody runs out and starts shopping.
No, well, that's the other thing we're looking at, is we're looking at a very special, specific type of boat lift.
Okay.
So it won't be willy-nilly any boat lift. I'd like to point out that the area that we're looking at to put boat lifts in would probably be restricted to the wake area right now, because this is our first move toward boat lifts. So the other reason to do it too is not only the wake, it's also the zebra mussels are in that area. So it helps to get your boat out of the heavy zebra mussel population. So it's twofold.
Okay, second question is I think he called it riprap or something? Mm-hmm. Is that on the bottom of the lake past the rocks? He said, you know, for children not to play on the rocks, but does that extend into the water?
It goes into the water, but it doesn't go all the way to the bottom.
Right. So the riprap is the rock.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And basically what it starts is it does go into the water. They have what they call toe rocks. They're really giant rocks that first they lay a fabric down, then they lay these toe rocks down to kind of hold that fabric in place. And then you start stacking those rocks up against the larger rocks and then coming out of the water with smaller rocks. So it's almost like an anchor for that.
We're talking about people dislodging.
Yeah.
things, and I thought, well,
So the
snag out there?
yeah, so the riprap, and ironically, when we got a lot of the feedback on I'm going to lose lures and my kids are going to lose lures and we're going to get, it was when that dam first was completed and in the spring when we also ironically got the emails, what are you doing with the lake level? Because the lake level is still 4.5, 5 feet down. As we did our rain dances and the lake came up, a lot of that riprap disappeared. So you still have some water in between the riprap and, you know, bringing your lure in the surface. But as it gets out of the water, you're probably going to get your lures and some of that fishing equipment hooked on it. So
Riprap is a fisherman's nightmare. And the other thing that concerns us is that the wall is at a pretty steep incline. It's not very gradual. So, and keeping in mind this is loose rock, so when, especially kids, when we see them doing this, it's kind of terrifying to think, but they go out to pull their lure out of these rocks. They could easily dislodge enough rocks to even slide into the lake, to twist their ankles, there's a number of things that, you know, cut themselves. So it does concern us. And so we need to get the word out that please stay off those rocks. It's just for this year. Well, we're working on the signs, Mary. Believe it or not, it's a process, I've been told.
What are the chances?
We want everybody to hear you. No, you go ahead. What are the chances?
Expands on the riprap. Paul Woody, K298. I'm wondering if there are some preliminary ideas around where that riprap may be placed.
In all honesty, we are trying to find other solutions other than riprap. The cost of riprap is astronomical. And there are some bioengineered things that we can do, especially in cove areas, low wake areas, so now we're limiting the area that would have to be riprap to prevent the erosion. And to the point that we have not said this directly to members, but it doesn't make fiscal sense for us to dig the lake deeper if we continue to have erosion to fill the hole that we just paid millions of dollars to dig, and then we're just filling it with sand and dirt and whatever. So we need to address the erosion first before we dredge.
And then Jeff, you had mentioned a midterm goal was the riprap, 3 to 5 years. Does that mean whatever riprap is decided upon would start at that 3-year or maybe 2-year, or you kind of build up to that?
Yeah,
point?
it depends on if we get an approved plan signed off by Eagle. So the short answer is, yeah, we would try to get that within that 3 to 5 year time frame, approved, signed off. But back to your question, we're still trying to evaluate where riprap makes sense. Quite honestly, there's areas around the lake that have seawalls that are becoming dilapidated, and Eagle will not approve. They will not approve seawalls. That's one of the first things that they've said is if you have a seawall and you've got issues, it needs to be replaced with riprap, because if you look at a seawall, what it does is that energy hits that seawall and then pushes it all the way down to an end point that doesn't have a seawall, and what's going with it, sediment, sand, and then it all gets piled up at the end of that seawall. And now you've got erosion underneath, and then it starts flapping up underneath, and then the seawalls pop down. Riprap and rocks, we've looked at the socks around, so there's other things that we're trying to identify.
And just for clarification, because people will be watching this on their televisions, what we said was we were going to prioritize and apply erosion solutions. Just narrowing it down to a solution can take a couple years, just to look at all the different options and all the different situations around the lake. So no, we're not going to be putting riprap in the next 3 to 5 years. It's part of the 5 to 10 year, because riprap would be used on the large part of the lake more so than the coves, if that's what we go with, because not everybody needs riprap. Okay.
So Jeff, you just about answered my next follow-up question, and then I'll give up the mic. On seawalls, you had noted that in the long-term section, but that seems to me, based on what I'm hearing here, would go almost hand in hand with riprap. If Eagle isn't going to allow seawalls, or you've got dilapidated seawalls, they would have to be removed and replaced.
Correct.
Is that
Yeah, so 3 to 5 years, we got to identify the hot spots and put a plan together and have Eagle sign off or approve on it, and then action it probably after that 3 to 5 year time frame.
Is it thought at this point for seawalls that are in good shape that they have a chance of staying? Is it to the members' benefit to outside of other reasons to maintain your seawall?
That would be the big question.
That would, our quite honestly, our position on that with Eagle is, if it's in if it's good structure, there's no reason to tear that thing out. The challenge is if it's dilapidated, falling apart, and now the park inspector or the park gets a request I need to replace a few boards, and then all of a sudden we go out there and they're rebuilding an entire seawall. If it needs to be repaired, replaced, it won't get approved. If it's still in good standing, our position with Eagle would be, yeah, it needs to stay. There's no reason to tear it out.
In all actuality, too, wood is one of the worst things you can make a seawall out of. Wouldn't you agree, Jim? Yeah. It truly is.
One of the more what?
Worst.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. To be very clear, I actually met with a member yesterday with the sales department that's looking at their seawall. So seawalls, all seawalls at this point, to do a seawall to hold back the sand, like some people have done in Phase 6 across by your area, Phase 5 and all the way down, is good. But those of you that saw our storm, we lost 2 very large trees, maybe 15 lots down from you. When I looked at those trees were totally healthy, but because they were right up against that wall, when those tree roots came out, there was nothing holding those tree roots. We're causing our own problems. And so when you have those walls, you have 2 things going on. One is because there's so many angles, and we were out there with professional seawall builders last year looking at that, walked that entire beach. He said, whenever you have an angle where one lot changes to another, you cause magnification of the energy. That's a large energy area with all the main boats coming down, pushing those waves against there in the clockwise position that they go, or the counterclockwise position that they go. So when you do that, you're pushing that and you're transferring that energy. But also, if you look at the email or a video that's actually on Eagle's website, all of those hard walls, that energy also becomes a suction underneath, which is what happened to those trees. Those areas sucked the sand and the moisture and the dirt right out from underneath. So when those trees fell, it was a pond underneath them. It was all water. So again, we're causing our own deterioration, and when all of that comes in, it becomes a bigger problem. So if we don't eliminate the lowering and hiring of the lake, if we don't keep the hardened shoreline, number one, which is our well situation we're looking at, you go below that hardened shoreline that gets beat up. It's kind of like your calloused hands when you work hard and then all of a sudden you don't. When you get that hardened shoreline, that can handle that. The vegetation can grow in. When we drop a foot, we go below that hardened shoreline. Now you're sucking all the sand out from under that hardened shoreline. You lose the hardened shoreline and you start all over again next season or later in the season. The same thing with our walls. We're now sucking that energy out from underneath. So even if you would do a seawall, the requirements from Eagle is that you do a 3-to-1 pitch and you go out approximately 6 feet into the lake, which by mine, we're 6 feet out. But last year, again, we did an extra lowdown or lowering of the lake, drop down, and we were below that. And luckily our toe rocks, which are about 18 to 24 inches, held, but we still had a lot of sediment and sand being beat up by the waves after that when fall storms came in. So we need to do something, first of all, to get our hardened shoreline staying up there. Then we need to look at the erosion areas, and even in phase 6, and we've flagged a lot of people over there. We were adding sand, and one member said, yeah, I need another load of sand. Where do you think the sand's going? And then we have rototilling all the way down 3 foot into the beach. We have no root system. We have no vegetation. All that sand that we keep paying to put in there every year washes in. So a lake that started out at 16 feet is now 12.5 foot deep. Matter of fact, this year it's probably 12 foot deep. So we're filling our own lake in, which then we're going to have to pay to get it taken out. So we need to fix all of the shoreline, look at that. And the other thing that Eagle continues to ask when we give them plans is they say, okay, how long has it taken? What's changed? So that's why we need the bathymetric. We need to know where our original level was, which we're trying to find out. If anyone can get a hold of Bosgraphs or anybody that knows the original map depth, the engineering they have right now, they can take that original map depth, put it on a computer, then we can only pay about $10,000 to $12,000 to have somebody come and give us the current muck level or the depth. They can then overlap those, and then we can find out an exact cubic yards that needs to be removed. We can do a study of what that sediment is, what is the safe practices to remove that.
Where do we have hard bottom?
Correct. So we can get from our soft to our hard bottom to where we know what we have to do. So then we can get that type of a cost and find out. But then before we can even get that, they want a backup plan from Eagle. Okay, so this is what you're going to do. What are you going to do to maintain it? When's that look like? How many more cubic yards are you going to need to take out in 10 years or 20 years? It's just a lot of quagmire on top of our quagmire that's in the bottom of our lake to get the paperwork done. But until we give them a long-term plan with every single option figured out, we really are stuck. So the biggest thing we need to do is keep the wells. We need to be able to get some capital going, which they're going to be talking about. We need to get wells to keep our lake up, to keep to that hardened shoreline, to keep all that going. Then we need to look at protecting the existing seawalls and or whatever we're doing. But every single thing is going to involve some type of riprap or bioengineering, which is what we did in front of the pavilion or in front of the chapel last year, which improves the fishing dramatically in those areas. So we have to remember we've got 2,133 members. Some want to do skiing, some want to do tubing, some want to do just paddleboarding, some want to kayak. We need to be able to all, as members, respect all the other people, do a quiet hour from 10 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. Don't go out there flying. Let's give the other people a chance to use their utilities on the lake. And just remember, we're trying to meet a tremendous amount of different diverse activities, and we need to respect that. So if we do that, our lake's going to continue to come back into being able to be very nice. I think most of you will agree that the quality of the water has improved dramatically since we've been doing kind of a crackdown on the over hours, speeding around the lake and disturbing of the soils, as well as some of the surfing that was going on and such like that.
And thanks to zebra mussels.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Just in a very short period of time, it's improved. I think there's still room for improvement. Yes. Certainly with ballast use. And I'm glad to hear about at least you're looking at the size of boat and motor.
Absolutely.
Because I'd hate for all this to happen, or we have extra riprap or less access for those that want to use a sand area or beach area, that shrinks because if you go back in time, and we've been here almost 30 years, that the sand area by the power poles was double that size. It was another 20, 25 yards toward the island, believe it or not. We have pictures. Not to say that that's the right place for it to be, but there was a lot more opportunity before erosion happened. Yes. And although those walls, as you said, may have caused tree damage or trees to fall in, the wall we built was to save a tree, save a trailer next to us because of that. We were told at the time it had nothing to do with boats. It's just natural erosion. But you look at it now, it's not eroding anymore. We've got at least 4 feet, 5 feet from that tree base, and we have another wall around there, but those roots were protruding into the lake. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was a hazard, and we couldn't get the park to do anything about it, so we got to do something. So we've got a wall there now. And I want to take care of it if it's worth taking care of. That was the reason for my question. And I understand there could be different options around that in the future, but if we can take these few years to keep informing members on the boat rules, that's a piece of it too. And I'm done calling the PSO office because
Oh, no, we
get
count
good
on
boat
it.
numbers. I don't want to be the tattletale on the point, so.
Oh, well.
We haven't seen the PSOs out there as much this year, but if we have thousands and thousands of people, I know they're limited, but I'd encourage that to continue too. So, thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
And just so we all understand, when we talk about a bathymetric map, we're talking about a map that mapped the bottom of our lake. There was one when the lake was originally dug. If we have tried very hard to get our hands on the original bathymetric map for this lake and have had no luck. But if any of you know, we would love to get our hands on it. It would save us quite a bit of money from having to do a biosonic mapping of the lake. That just sounds expensive, doesn't it? It is.
That in the next monthly magazine, asking because there may be some oldies but goodies here stuffed in somebody's cupboard and closet.
See, that's an excellent idea, but you need to talk to the microphone. That's actually.
Yes, ma'am, when I bought, and I've only been here since 2016.
Sir, you had a question.
It's in there, so there's probably papers in some
Right.
closet.
Aaron Vanderlaan, K347. Would a decision be made on boat lifts yet this year, do you think?
No.
No.
Okay.
And it's a process. The research that we have to do is very involved, and we're all volunteers.
Right.
So it is very involved in coming up with a specific. It would be great if we could have a boat lift that you could purchase coming into the spring, but I'm not going to promise that. But we are actively looking at that. Actually, that suggestion came from a member
Okay.
to consider boat lifts. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah, and
It's-
the process of any of the committees is the committees are advisory committees to the board of directors. So committees such as this will do this research, bring up recommendations, and then the committee has to present it to the board, and then the board may kick it back and say, hey, we think this is a good idea, but we'd like this, and this answered or researched. So right now, as Val said, we're in the research and we haven't kicked a committee. This committee hasn't kicked it to the board yet for any kind of decision on it. It would be a rule change, and then you'd have to have the board vote on it and things of that nature. So, not this year. Hopefully soon we'll get a recommendation out there, and we'll see where it goes. Okay.
Thank you.
Good question. Thank you.
Go for it, Deb.
Deb Peppel, 491. I have a question about the boat lifts. I think boat lifts are awesome. However, people that live on the water might share their dock or their space out front with somebody else. So are we going to take into consideration these people's view, whatever, if we're going to let somebody else put a dock or a lift out in front of their spot?
So we are taking that into consideration. It's one of our primary considerations. Also, should you have to have a dock to even put in a boat lift? So, yeah, no, it is being taken into consideration very much. We just want people to be able to lift their boats enough to get them 8 to 12 inches above the water. 12 max, I think we were toying with. Yeah, 12 max. So they'd be a foot higher from the water. As the water goes down, they might be the level they were in the spring.
Good question. All right, we got about 9 minutes left. Any other questions, comments?
Gosh. Oh, no, we're only taking questions on the lake.
If there aren't any additional questions, we don't want to cut you short, but I see a bunch of, oh, we got one more coming. All right, good. I was going to say, I see some fidgety feet out there. They want to get to those garage sales.
My name's Dave DeVisser. I'm K297, Paul and Linda's neighbor. My question is, if we cannot locate the map that you're looking for, and we just can't lay our hands on it, is it possible for a redesign of the bottom of the lake ourselves that we could, or hire, and that way you could design the lake depth the way that, maybe that would be most advantageous?
So that's where the biosonic mapping would come in. We would have to pay for that service. We wouldn't necessarily design the bottom of the lake, but we could use it to implement long-term benefits to the lake, fishing, etc. And where, where our boat traffic is. But the biosonic mapping would be the next step if we can't find a bathymetric. And keeping in mind that though we get the biosonic mapping, we're still talking about a lot of money to dredge this lake. Right. Then you're looking at, do you do the whole lake? Do you do it in piecemeal? Do you just at first target the areas that are in really bad shape? So, it's a process, and it's going to require a lot, and we've already started the research. We know what we need to get going. But that biosonic mapping or the bathymetric map will also help us to determine how many cubic yards, shall we say, of bottom that we would be taking out, muck or whatever. And that's how we pay for the dredging. So that helps us to get a cost on what the dredging would cost us.
Have you looked into inserting oxygen into the muck?
Yes. Yeah. We've talked about phosphate treatments. We've talked about bubblers. We've talked about, we have.
Yep.
Yeah.
And just to elaborate one other aspect of your question, in conversations with Eagle, they want us to clearly identify the hardened bottom, the original depth of that lake. we can't go deeper, we can't go wider. They will not allow that. And even verbally, they've told us that dams like that, lakes like this that are dammed up, they're not approving. So, and we ran into that when we did the drain maintenance project over in phase 3. The only way that thing got approved was they have specific parameters. You can't go deeper, you can't go wider. If you go deeper and wider, Eagle will say, no, you can't do that, and it wasn't going to get approved. So,
Thank you.
Good question, though. Thank you. All right. Any other questions? Anybody from the committee or the board have any comments? Anything they would like to add?
Well, I want to touch base on these zebra mussels, because a lot of people are saying, well, just spray it. So I want to make sure I address what would be involved with that. There are sprays that we could apply to the lake to kill the zebra mussels. We can do that. Zequinox prices I'm seeing are about $100,000 an acre. Well, that's because of the labor involved, and it requires many treatments. Then it's finding someone who's licensed to even apply this stuff. Earth Tech, which is a little bit cheaper, is only going to cost you about $70,000 an acre. Now, we have a lot of acres here, so yeah, 265 if you do the math. And they can't guarantee that it'll be 100% mortality. That just takes us to that 91, 92%. So the problem with that is, as I told you in the beginning of this, they're very prolific spawners. If they're putting out as many as 1 million eggs and we're killing 91% of them, it's not very long before we're right back where we started from. So as boaters, we need to be conscious if we're taking our boat to another lake, fishing boats, rowboats, whatever you're taking to another lake, please take the time to either desiccate the boat or power wash the boat and let it dry properly before you put it in another lake, because you are moving larvae. That's what is attaching to your boat and going to another lake, okay? And somebody did that to us, and it's not very nice, and we don't want to do it to another lake.
Amen. All right. Well, with that, it looks like we'll end 3 minutes early. Thank you all for attending. Good questions.
Thank you.
Have a beautiful day out there. So have a blessed weekend, and happy garage sailing.
Well, but see, Larry, I think just like it's going to be a process.